Tonight's meeting of the executive. The chances are we will not be completing the full business before we need to adjourn to go into full council. If we have to do that when the full council is over, our job continues. We will come back and reconvene the executive to complete the agenda. This whole proceedings will be videoed. But if you're asking questions, the video is facing us, not you, so only your voice will be seen. For some of you, I'm sure your voice is well known already anyway. Then the other thing is there are a couple deputies around me that are standing in for executive members who unfortunately can't make it tonight. I need to just let everyone know that deputies, per our constitution, cannot actually vote on anything. They can participate, but they do not have the authority to vote as we go through. So, having said all that, let's move on to the actual meeting. First of all, any apologies?
Chairman, I've got apologies from Councillor Julian Lee-Sumner. Thank
you. Minutes of previous meetings. Can I sign those? Thank you. Any declaration of interests?
I am Chairman of Optimus, which gives me an interest in the company's piece and also an interest in the Optimus contract piece. I will present myself the Optimus contractor because it's the last one. Go home.
No chance. Okay. Actually, Anne, I forgot to mention, Pauline is stuck in the horrendous M3 traffic. She's currently budgeting about an hour and 20 minutes delay. Public question time. Let's move on to. Let's move on to the exciting Pete. Is Peter here?
Of course. Has he spotted me in the crowd? Question for Philip Murphy. There have been a number of high-profile planning disasters involving major projects in the town, including Wellington House, now demolished, which is part of a scheme to build a large civic centre complex that was abandoned. The proposed IDR, including a roundabout surrounding the 16th century Tudor house, also abandoned due to public opposition. Then having to spend 30 million, according to Philip on the radio, although it's 12 million in the minutes from the last meeting, to build social housing to replace the shoddy, damp-ridden properties the council built in Eustace Crescent and then subsequently demolished, that word again, as they were insanitary. A supermarket built on a greenfield site that later abandoned and left vacant for many years due to its poor location. Poor architecture at either end of Peach Street, allowed by the planning committee, but now demolished again. About to be demolished in one case. Hundreds, maybe thousands of recently planted trees about to be uprooted due to the lack of joined up thinking in respect of the routes of the NDR, and so on. Would you please list what lessons the council have learned from these expensive failures and what guarantees you can give that such disasters won't be repeated with the schemes currently in the pipeline?
Good evening, Peter.
Okay. I can hear you.
So you can hear me, can't you? That's good. Interesting series of questions here. First, I will just comment on my colleague here, who's been here a lot longer than I have in Wokingham, commented on your large civic centre complex. He's never been familiar with any large civic centre complex. Sorry, it's my turn now.
Okay.
He's never been familiar with any large civic centre complex. I'll just put that in passing, but let me pick up with the rest. I'm very interested in your choice of projects that you mentioned, your interpretation of them as expensive failures. Take, for example, Eustace Crescent, which sat within the 1950s Norris estate, providing housing for 60 years. Or Wellington House, which was in use as a council office for over 40 years. Hardly failed projects. The regeneration proposals are not isolated one-off projects, as many of the schemes you refer to, but are the culmination of years of strategic planning and research. Starting 12 years ago in 2004, with the start of the development of the local plan, the core strategy, the managing development delivery document, and the town centre master plan, which set out how the borough and the town should change over the coming years. This planning process ensures that we are building now, what we are building now will meet the needs and demands of both current and future residents. All of these documents have been the result of extensive consultation with residents, local businesses, developers, and in regards to the local plan, core documents have undergone examination in public by the Planning Inspectorate prior to their adoption. Alongside this, we've continued to consult on our regeneration proposals throughout the process of developing the designs, including major consultation events in 2011, 12, 13, 14 and 15. At each stage, we have changed our proposals in response to feedback to ensure we're delivering the right scheme for Wokingham to be a success. What these projects also demonstrate to me is a continually changing face of modern life and business and the need for the built form to respond to this. That's why the Council has been careful to ensure that our regeneration proposals have been designed as flexibly as possible and can continue to adapt to future requirements. Commercial spaces have been designed so the footprint can be continually altered to reflect current retail approaches or even converted to alternative uses in many years to come if needs be. Residential properties have been designed to meet the Lifetime Homes standard so they can continue to adapt to the life requirements of those living there and will allow them a good standard of living regardless of age and abilities. We're also investing in making sure everything we build as part of regeneration is built to a high quality and remains so for years to come. Things like using the right quality materials, the right contractors, and putting the right long-term management agreements in place with tenants to ensure this can be achieved. The Council has already successfully delivered the first phase of the regeneration proposals at Beach Place to such standards, and has every confidence they can deliver the remaining phases to meet them as well. This Council is committed to ensuring regeneration for its town centres.
I'm sure you've got a supplementary, Peter.
Of course. Well, first off, just on that point you made about the town hall, I can find the documentary evidence of that. I've come across the history book, but anyway, that's not my question.
Civic
obviously.
Centre, you said.
Civic Centre, okay, Civic Centre.
Town hall's been around a bit longer.
Okay, it does the same sort of business, but on to the question anyway. I mentioned in this about the supermarket, i.e. Tesco's, which was built on Elms Field, and then they subsequently decided it wasn't a viable site, and it was left vacant for many years because they retained the lease, which wasn't a good piece of documentation on the council's part when they drafted out the contracts. But subsequent to that, Sainsbury's were offered a site on Elms Field. They then pulled out. Lidl was encouraged to go there. They didn't take up the option, and indeed, when Lidl didn't go to their current site at the planning meeting, Councillor Deegan, who was sitting in your shoes in them days as head of regeneration, etc., he actually said if Lidl go there, then the supermarket at Elmsfield wouldn't be viable, and that would ruin that project. And now you're trying to encourage Aldi to go there. Why is that one going to work? And if Aldi don't turn up, does that mean the whole scheme is again inviable and going to have to be abandoned? Something else come up with?
That's an interesting combination you've got there. Supermarket, Tesco, I'm glad you mentioned which it was. I couldn't for the life of me assume what it was going to be. Now you mentioned Tesco, yes, they had a lease, as I recall, and I wasn't on this council at that stage, so I can't comment, but I seem to recall that was down to a lease. I think lessons have certainly been learnt over the years since then, very much so. Sainsbury's, well, that was entirely down to their requirements, and as you will probably recall, we were not the only place in the country that they pulled out of at the time. They were going through a very rocky patch, as many other supermarket chains were at the time and still are to some degree. And the size of their store was just not compatible with the market as it had changed. And that's why they pulled out. And they pulled out of many others. In fact, I know Tesco also pulled out of some at the same time. I'm not quite sure your appreciation of where Lidl came and the comments is quite my appreciation of it.
I remember being at the planning meeting when Councillor Deegan said it.
Oh, I remember what he said, but yeah. I'm not sure your full appreciation of whether they were supposed to be going to Elms Field is correct.
No, they were asked if they'd go there rather than where they wanted to go.
Who said that?
Because
I'm sorry.
Both of you, please, both of you. We're trying to answer the question, and can we stick to the question? You can have this debate, this conversation later. So please, can you stick to the question? Thank you.
Sorry, Chair. Yeah. So moving on with that, you now come to, you've mentioned another supermarket chain. Well, I'm sorry, I can't comment on who the supermarket chain will be that are coming into Elmsfield.
It's on the website.
We still have to sign up with any supermarket that's coming. And they will only be coming to this town, I can assure you, if they feel there's a future. The company we are negotiating with are looking at a 25-year lease at this stage, so that is the confidence they have in wanting to come to Woking.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you. Philip, is Jeremy here? Please step up. Ask a question.
The WBC executive decided last week it was better to relocate the tennis courts on Elms Field at the cost of £320,000 than to refurbish the existing facility. The report presented at the meeting did not say how much this second option would cost. Could you provide us with that figure?
Good evening, Gerald. Thank you very much for your question. There was no executive meeting last week, so no decision could have been made, as you suggest. The executive decision on the 28th of January, however, related to agreeing the payment of relevant planning contributions required by planning application 152125 for Elms Field. Ordinarily, as part of the planning application process, the Council would enter into a legal agreement with a developer to ensure any required financial contributions are paid at correct points. The Council cannot enter into a legal agreement with itself, so an alternative approach to making payments needs to be taken in regards to applications such as this. Under the Council's constitution, this means securing executive approval to pay contributions of over £5 million from the regeneration project to local planning authority. The figure of £320,000 for the tennis courts is based upon a strict non-negotiable formula set by Sport England, who set the costs of providing a floodlit tennis court at £80,000 per court. The proposals for Elms Field include removing the tennis courts from their existing site and providing money for their replacement elsewhere. This decision was made as part of the regeneration design process to create the right scheme for Wokingham Town Centre, which delivers the right mix of facilities and makes the best use of the land available in balancing development with a large area of open space. The monies paid by the Elms Field development will contribute to the provision of tennis courts elsewhere within Wokingham, and it will allow for the delivery of top quality facilities in the right locations to meet resident needs. The new courts will be significantly better and include lights, as said, and its new location will be the subject of a consultation with our residents.
So I'm sure you've got a supplementary. Please go ahead.
Got so many. What can I ask? I wondered if there was a firm place where these might be, and if there's an amount for the pitch and putt, and if there's any plans to relocate that or any funds to compensate for that.
Well, I've already given you the situation as far as where it's going to be located. There will be a consultation to establish where it's best to be placed, and there are no plans on the pitch and putt.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is Mike O'Reilly here? No. So we'll provide a written answer for that one. So now we get to
read it out as an interest.
Sorry?
Can't read it out as now out of interest.
I really want to get on with business because some of us are going to be here till 11 o'clock tonight. But no. Unfortunately, he's not here. He hasn't sent a substitute,
Okay.
so I think it reflects the interest in that particular question. So moving on to, by the way, you don't need to stay if you wish to leave. So we'll move on to the really exciting things. Housing Revenue Account Budget, item 95, pages 25 and 26.
Are there no questions?
Oh, I believe there's no other questions, so thank you. Let's keep moving.
This was revenue.
That's fine. So, John, Housing Revenue Account.
Thank you, Chairman. This is to present the Housing and Revenue Account Budget for 2016/17. There has been some changes. I mean, the council house dwelling rents this time around are going to be reduced by 1%, effective from the 1st of April 2016, in line with the Welfare Reform and Works Bill 2015. This is subject to confirmation of the statutory starting date. The garage rents will be increased by 1.1%, effective from the 1st of April, in line with the council's fees and charges. And it has also got to be noted that the review of the shared equity rents in 2011 had determined that the rents had been kept artificially low in previous years and not increased in line with terms of the leases. Therefore, rents for shared equity properties have been gradually increased above inflation for 4 years to bring the rent in line by the 1st of April 2016. The increase for 2016-17 and future years will be based on RPI, and it is estimated to be approximately 1%. The other charges included in this are tenant service charges, which are set in line with estimated costs, and there is also the housing major repair capital programme for 2017, which is also set out in the paper. And I ask for your approval for this budget item.
Thank you, John. Is there any questions? Can I take I have one comment really rather than a question before we take the vote. As well as it's laudable to reduce the rents by 1% every year for the next X years, 4 years, there is a financial impact on this council. So that just adds extra pressure that we have already on our budgets. But that's what the government wants, that's what we're doing. So, all those in favour for the recommendations 1 to 6 on page 25, please show. Thank you, that's carried. Moving on to the next, capital programme and strategy 37 to 50, treasury management strategy, and I probably want to take all three together. Over to you, Anthony.
Thank you. So, capital programme is set out on the pages, and everyone can see the projects those and the spend over the next 3 years. I do have an amendment on a couple of points which I will read subsequently. Moving on to Treasury Management, one of my favourite topics, and very important because it links back to the capital programme and is to some extent the proof of financing of the capital programme. So, and it also links into our investment strategy because we have significant amounts of money on deposit because we get paid our council tax early, which means in the earlier part of the year we have significant amounts of money that we need to invest and make return on. And the medium-term financial plan following that is the revenue budget. There is a distinction in council parlance between capital and revenue. The revenue budget is financed from council tax and from government grants, and as many of you will know, government grants are being effectively phased out, except for business rates, but more of that later. And the proposals relating to the medium-term financial plan are contained pages 100 and onwards. And in the Treasury Management Mid-Year Report, another exciting document, dealing with how well we have been doing with our management of the money that we have, and also the funding of the capital programme. Happy to take any questions, but I do have an amendment to the capital programme recommendation.
Okay, so are there any questions or comments on agenda item 96, the capital programme and strategy, prior to Anthony making the change? Okay, Angus?
Chairman, I think it's just worth, there's a number of schemes here in my portfolio. This is a programme and not an allocation of funds. Some people read this the wrong way. Equally, that any of these items will be subject to a very robust challenge. It's not an amount to spend up to. And the timing of it is obviously at the moment the best estimate of when we can proceed with any of these projects.
Thank you, Angus. A point very, very well made. So if there's no other questions, Anthony, do you want to
yes,
propose the revised recommendation?
Revision to item 1.
Can you use your microphone, please?
Sorry.
It's for the recording, not so much.
I'm sorry. On item 1, in connection with the capital programme, after 16 to 19, I need to amend subject to the 2017-18 and 2018-19 capital programme budgets for car park entry and exit barriers to be reduced to 0 pending further review. That's my only change, but we do need to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony.
Secretary. Anthony, I'd make the same observation as Angus. It's not a target, so I really don't understand why this is necessary.
Right, so you've got, we will now move to the vote on the revised recommendation. It's as per on the yellow sheet. You've got the replacement white paper. That's that's effectively the replacement page. So all those in favour for the cover programme and strategy, the recommendation with the amendment. All those please show. That's unanimous. So moving on to a vote on the next one, Treasury Management Strategy, page 51. This is obviously a good few number of Peter's future trees. This document. Do you want to just make any comments, or we'll just take a straight to questions? So
I think just take straight to the vote. I think there's no changes. But,
any questions or anything? We'll go straight to the vote. Okay, all those in favour, please, on the recommendations, page 51, recommendations 1 to 6. All those please show. That's unanimous. Treasury Management Strategy, no, that's
medium term financial plan.
98. The big one. Medium term financial plan. Which is item 98 on page 97. Confusing. Do you want to make any further comments? Are there any questions for Anthony on this? Or as I go straight to the vote? No, can't see any. All those in favour, please show. That's unanimous. Treasury Management Mid-Year Report 103. Do you want to make some comments? No comments on that one? Okay. Any questions for Tom? We've obviously all read it. We're riveted with the numbers and the documents, etc. All those please in favour, please show. Thank you, that's approved unanimously. School admission arrangements. Page 135. Charlotte?
Thank you, Chairman. Just for those that don't already know, I'll just run through what this is. It applies to all state-funded schools, including free schools and also academies, but not to special schools. So that's community or voluntary schools. So that's our primary schools, our junior schools, our 10 secondary schools, and 11 nurseries, and these are 6 form schools, which are currently in our secondary schools. We also are including in here our in-year admissions, although we have no legal requirement to coordinate those. But all of our schools, bar one of them, early St Peter's, choose to be part of our in-year admission schemes as well. There are a few changes from last year admissions arrangements to this year's, which are the 17-18 admission round. We've been out to consultation on these, and the consultation finished on the 15th of January, but we received no comments. There are 7 proposed changes, and I'll just run through those. They're laid out on pages 138 and report to 140. The first one of those was clarity about families and not just children with medical and social needs. Because in the last document from last year it focused just on children, but this time it focuses on families as a whole. The second one is about change to residency requirements, and it's about parents who may own more than one home. And this year we had a number of issues, especially around early school places and potentially fraudulent entries in the admission arrangements. The third one is around the wording for Crown servants. The fourth one is about how waiting lists are managed, and this time it will mean that if you're down 1 year on a waiting list, you will need to register again for the second year if you're moving forward into the next year and you want to remain on the waiting list. The fifth one is about 9 Mile Ride Primary School, and it's about increasing the designated area to bring it in line with a small area of the borough that wasn't already included in that, so it's a bit of an anomaly, but that's just correcting that. The sixth area for change was about prioritising 2-year-olds who are in nursery or who are already getting free funding into the admissions policy. And the last area for change was about the new timetable for coordinated schemes. The timetable in this document is laid out on page 141, so you can see it there. It has to be determined by the 28th of February, and the documentation is finally published on the 15th of March in order to allow for objections. So I'll take any questions if anyone has any.
Do you have any? No? We'll move straight to the vote on page 1. The recommendation is to take the whole document, but I think Charlotte has very eloquently highlighted the changes. All those in favour, please show. Thank you, that's unanimous. Moving on to item agenda 101 on page 243. I believe Mark, as the deputy, you've effectively done the work, so it's appropriate for you to introduce the subject. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's not me that's done the work, it's Strategic Assets, and we're proud to bring for approval this project really for this evening. Charleville Parish Council expressed an interest in taking responsibility for the future management of East Park Drive leisure facility and park, and by the way of a long lease, and suggested a shared income in lieu of a standard rent. So the proposed agreement sees the phased transfer of the current WBC budget for the park to Charleville Parish Council over the next 4 years. This with a reduction of 20% each year, which would make the whole place self-sufficient within a 5-year time frame. This to Charleville Parish Council gives them security of a long-term lease, giving the ability to improve the facility and develop increased and more diverse usage, e.g. a proposed children's nursery. Also, they get financial assistance from Woking Borough Council in the early years, which reduces the risk whilst they make the property sustainable and self-financing. It empowers the community to deliver the services at a local level. And the community users are able to address issues at a local level, which is important. It's localism in action. The WBC, we retain the locality for the long term via a 2-year break clause, but that break clause is also a protection if the venture failed in any way. So to sum up, we recommend the executive approves the transfer of East Park Farm Drive sports and leisure facilities under a lease for 30 years to Charleville Parish Council, as highlighted on the red boundary, I think it's actually in bold, on Appendix 1 in the back. So I recommend this to you for your approval, please, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mark. Charlotte?
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to say that this really is localism in action, and how positive it is as a paper and also a proposal. This really gives the community of Charleville the opportunity to use these facilities to the maximum, raise money, and also, because it's a 30-year lease, change the use of it over its lifetime. So,
thank you.
Philip?
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to congratulate Mark and the whole of the Assets team on putting this forward. I think it's been a splendid example of working together with the community, and it's setting the foundations for the model of future community asset transfers as well. And I think this is very important. That paper will be coming in due course back to the executive, and I hope that this will set the example of how it can be achieved.
Thank you. Angus?
Yes, I mean, part of what I was going to say has been said. I was involved as much of this activity there as in my portfolio, and what I was impressed by in trying to set this up as a template for what we will do in the future was the patience and involvement and the way everybody had their say, the parish council, sports users. It was a very inclusive process, and I do trust that will be the bedrock of how we move forward with this scheme in other places. But this one is good news for the council, good news for Charleville.
Thank you, Angus, and I'll just add my 2 pennies worth. It's that for this council to survive going forward, looking at the finances that we will have over the next 5 to 10 years, we have to work closer with the towns and parishes and work together. The word localism has been used, but it's really integrating the 2 organisations in this case for the benefit of the future. And something similar is happening in Woodley, and I'm sure it's going to happen elsewhere.
Yes, watch this space.
Absolutely the shape of things to come. So all those in favour, please show. It's unanimous. John, acquisition of property. Do you want to do the 2 together? Or?
I'll quickly run through this.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. This is, I'm seeking approval for the right to acquire a property which is 28 Mile Square. It's much needed social housing, as you know, and we're seeing an increase in homelessness in the borough. It is an ex-social house that was purchased under the right to buy, and we are basically purchasing it in part with right to buy receipts, which can only be used for this purpose. If we do not use these for this purpose, they must be returned to the government after 3 years, plus 4% base. Above base rate, so it's important that we use them and put them to a very good, to this very good cause of acquiring this house.
So, do we have any questions, or can we go straight to the vote? Is to agree the acquisition as set out in the report. Others, please show in favour. Thank you. There's a similar one, I think, the next agenda item.
Yeah, 103, Chairman, thank you very much. It's the same issue. This is a property, 20 Billings Avenue. Again, it's an ex-social house that was purchased under the right to buy scheme, and we will be purchasing that using a percentage of the percentage of the money that we'll be using to purchase this will be the retained right to buy proceeds. Again, the same process. This will mean if another homeless person family will go into a home.
Okay. Any questions, or straight to the vote? All those in favour, please show. Thank you. That's unanimous. Now we move on to the council-owned company's business. Agenda item 104, page 281. You have the recommendation there to note the budget monitoring position, the operational updates, approving the working and housing remit document, approve the Optalis remit document, approve the working and housing business plan, which was actually presented previously, but unfortunately we failed to do a vote, we make mistakes, and approve the Optalis business plan, which is set out in part 2. So if you want to any comments at this moment in time, clearly restricted to the white papers. So any questions or comments on this? I don't know, Anthony, whether you want to make any comments about Optalis. Obviously you have to be careful.
I think that the management team have done an extremely good job in putting together a business plan. I'm very pleased with that. I think it's a good basis going forward. The remit document fits with that business plan, and I think they dovetail together very well. And I want to pay tribute particularly to the holding company and the work that we've been able to do with the holding company this year and the way that we've worked together. And I think that's been a good demonstration of new business and a new culture. So I appreciate it.
Thank you. And I'll just add, if you look at page 283, business development, that's now getting more and more content in there as the reputation of Optalis goes before it. And it's really beginning to start making return on our significant investment, both in cash terms but also in people terms, because it is very much a people-oriented business. So what I'm proposing, if we just look at recommendations 1 to 5, we'll not be up to the business plan just because of part 2. All those in favour, please show. That's unanimously approved. Now, on item 6, as it says, there is an Optalis business plan on part 2. Is there any questions that we need to ask around that business plan at all? Otherwise we'd have to clear the public gallery. No? So I'll go to the recommendation 6 to approve the Optalis business plan. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. And I think that is the end of the business. Sir, you're not Michael Ryan, are you?
I'm not.
Oh, no, that's okay, fine. Because we had some more time, if you were, I was going to invite a question.
Do we not have a separate contract? 257.
I've missed something, so horrible. Right. Optalis contract, item 105. Thank you.
I need to leave, sorry, Chairman. Thank you.
see you in
Do you know? Yes.
20 minutes. Well, welcome, Pauline.
Thank you.
We got caught up in the junction, Wokingham to Reading major incident the M4. So I'm going to be up by about an hour. There's gridlock everywhere. As you
Hour and
found.
50 minutes apparently.
So, item 105, page 357. This is to renew the Optalis contract. As you know, when we set up the Optalis as a company, there was a contract to provide a whole series of services back to the council. And over the years of that contract, both sides of that contract learned a tremendous amount, which is why this contract is radically different to the benefit of both parties going forward. So we have it there. If there's any questions, I will try to answer them. No, I'll move straight to the vote then. That the Council issues a new contract to Optalis on 1st of July 2016 for up to 5 years. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. Now it's finished.